Well, hello there guys and welcome to another edition of Rage Against the Dice. Today we're going to be taking our first glimpses into the Tombstone by Black Scorpion Miniatures Rulebook. Now, I was going to show you the paper copy today, however I have lent that to my friend because he wasn't able to get in on the Kickstarter. And I was waiting for him to give me it back, but it's been about 2 weeks now. And I just wanted to get this video done because I want to build up a lot of hype for this. So we're going to look at my PDF copy, which is on my iPad, as long as my iPad holds out, because in true Apple form, my battery is damaged, and Apple aren't hugely helpful unless I want to pay them tons of cash. But this isn't a video dissing Apple. There's many of them on YouTube. This is talking about Tombstone, the Old West skirmish miniature game by Black Scorpion Miniatures. The models are beautiful. We've had a look at them before. Now we're going to have a look at the rules. I would just say that we have set up a fan group on Facebook for this game. We're hoping to get more subscribers on that. So if you look down below in the link, in the description, there is a link for that. If you're on Facebook, you like Tombstone, or you're interested in seeing some Old West skirmishy stuff in general, you know, give it a like and go and follow it. Say hi to everyone. They'll say hi to you. They're a polite bunch. Let's dive straight into it then. Straight away, first thing we're going to look at is the cover. If you guys watch my video showing off the models, you would see this beautiful lady here. She's the cover model, and she was a Kickstarter exclusive miniature. She's absolutely fantastic. Now, I cannot stress enough how much I love this cover. It just screams Old West. The colours, they're slightly washed out. They've got like a comic book feel to them, which I really, really love. I love this logo here. And just everything about it, it just fits so perfectly for myself. And I'm a big, big fan of it. I'm not going to talk anymore on the cover because, you know, if you guys are fans of Tombstone and you followed it on Facebook or on the Kickstarter, you would have seen the cover and you would have seen all details of that. So although this is beautiful, it's not strictly new. You know, I first saw this image about 5-6 months ago, I think. Then you get a map, and this flips over. Oh yeah, stupid iPad. But yeah, if you've got your paper copy, I keep saying hard copy, because I don't know, I watched the film Hackers too much when I was a kid, so I say hard copy a lot when I'm talking about paper and things. I know, disgraceful. But you get this cool little map anyway. And it's nice, it just shows you a little bit of the city and some details, and it feels very Old West. But yeah, so on the PDF copy, then you get a copy of the logo again, and then you get this artwork. This artwork is beautiful. Again, it just screams Old West. You've got, obviously, the smoking 6-gun, where you can clearly see from the bullet wound here that he's been shot. You've got the cards, obviously, representing the gambling. You've got, you know, spurs and things like that, cowboy hat down one side, you've got more gambling stuff over that side. So this picture instantly conjures up images. They were playing cards, you can see he was cheating, he got caught and shot. Which, you know, is something that's quite common in Old West movies and things like that. But yes, it's a beautiful artwork, different to the one on the front cover, because obviously this is pencil. Stark bold lines, beautiful shading. It's fantastic. This is an art review though, so I'm going to skip on past, but all the artwork in this book is beautiful, for the record. You get the credits, tells you obviously everything about it, based on the original game system devised for Cutlass and Tombstone by Gav Thorpe. Now, if you're in the miniature game or you're a big fan of miniatures, you've probably heard of Gav Thorpe. I don't really need to go too much into how awesome he is, or how awesome he has been, but I'm a big Gav Thorpe fan, so that was another reason that this stood out to me. And then obviously the miniature and loads of the other stuff are done by Adam Clark, who's the owner and figurehead guy, I guess, of Black Scorpion Miniatures. The models are beautiful, so, you know, I don't really know him. I can just comment on what I've seen, and that's really cool. And then it goes through, obviously, everything else. Now, these are awesome. It just shows you, again, the staff. And you can match them up to your credits. But it's just a nice little touch. It doesn't add anything, but it's just a nice little touch. It shows off the staff, and it's shown in a way that fits the rest of the book. And I think it's really, really cool, to be honest. It's nice. The one thing about this rulebook, considering it's, to my knowledge anyway, the second rulebook they've ever produced, it is so well put together. The artwork in it, the way the book's laid out, everything's very easy to follow and very, very cool. So yeah, it was, when you look at, other companies like Privateer Press and stuff, their books aren't nearly as well put together as this. And these are guys who, they're an independent company, they're a small company, who originally made just beautiful miniatures, and have sort of spread out from there. But like even this, that artwork again is beautiful, very similar to the cover in terms of the comic booky style. It's got the all Western feel because of, everything, basically the paper, the way it looks dirty and old, crumpled, and then obviously what she's armed with, how she's dressed. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous picture. But yeah, this whole book is really well put together. So as you can see there, it's got contents, tells you what page is on which, and then it even breaks them down. So with your campaign, it separates it. So if you specifically just wanted to look at your weapons limits, you can look and straight away go to the right page, 88. And this is common with a lot of other rule books, but you see a lot of the indie books or a lot of the smaller companies aren't doing things like this. This is a very well thought out book. So again, more beautiful artwork. I love this sort of the Native Americans. I love that sepia style of artwork. It just is really good as well in a book like this to see that it's not just all cowboys or it's all lawmen and things like that. The other people are represented in here. Native Americans, you get obviously the cavalry and things like that. And, male and female representation in there for those who would be looking for that type of thing. So it's a very, very well done book with very beautiful artwork that represents obviously many of the different facets of the game. So it's got a little preface. When we first started working on Cutlass, our pirate-themed skirmish game, which is fantastic, by the way, if you're into pirates, the intention was always to make a game for Tombstone along the same lines. The original game system was made with that in mind. Gav Thorpe worked on the original core mechanics so that they could easily be adapted for both cowboys and pirates. So, like you see, even back then when they were thinking of Cutlass, because they had the Tombstone range of models, they were always planning to bring out an Old West game. It's been a while, but it's finally here. And as it says there, so it definitely is. We present our second book. So this is the second rule book they've ever done. It's really good. I'm not going to read it word for word. I'm not going to spoil that for you, because obviously, guys, I want you to buy it as soon as it's available. More beautiful, beautiful artwork. Again, a different style. Obviously, it's, it's very different compared to the others. It's still got the Western feel. Again, it's a guy who's clearly shot another guy. The smoking guns are very, very layered throughout this book, and it looks really cool. And it gives you some sort of, I suppose, a dynamic into the Old West. It's not just like that where she's just stood still posing, looking very, very cool. This is, something's happened. We have been dropped in the middle of a scene here, and he has clearly shot that other gentleman, probably over a financial dispute. Although, who knows, he could be a robber, that could be a sheriff. There's stuff going on here, and it's beautiful. That's really what I'm trying to say. So then very quickly, we've got a little look at the background. And again, it's not something I'm going to read all of, but I'm just going to give you a quick sort of overview of it. So, Tombstone is a skirmish game based on the Old West setting, so people who enjoy games for cowboys, outlaws, lawmen, and the Wild West. While the genre and theme are easily recognisable throughout the book and within the miniatures, as we've discussed, it's not overly restricted by historical dates or timelines. People, weapons, places, artistic license, and fantasy all blur to create Tombstone. It's limited only by your imagination. And then the Old West and our fantasy version of a town called Tombstone is the starting point for whatever games you wish to create. Then it goes on to tell you a bit more, and then it goes on to the factions. Lawmen, outlaws, Mexicans, 7th Cavalry, undead, and natives. a catch-all term to describe any tribe of Indians or miniatures within that theme. So if you wanted to go for a very specific Native American tribe, you're more than welcome to do so. And I said this just lumps them all in as one big lump. Much like how, you know, your outlaws are just outlaws. There's not male outlaws, female outlaws, even though the packs that they made were released as such. So, like, I chose female outlaws. And that was just for the purposes of the Kickstarter. And I'm assuming when it goes up on the website, it'll be very similar to the stuff that's already there. Which is a point if you are interested in this game, even though it has just finished Kickstarter. So a lot of their stuff isn't on their website yet. They still do have a back catalogue of Tombstone Western models. So if, like me, you're a guy who's played Legends of the Old West or Dead Man's Hand or any of those type of games, and you want some models for it, check out their website, which is linked below, and you can see what they've got. And then as soon as they do put up that the rulebook and things are on sale to the general public, you guys can pick up your own copy of them, which of course you go into. The only thing I don't like about this, and it was what I was just saying before, how this isn't restricted by historical dates and timelines and things like that. I'm really into my historical, as you've seen from other videos. I talk about historical quite a lot, especially like ancient Rome and things like that, but also the Old West. It's something I'm very, very fond of, is very passionate about. So the undead really bother me that they're in this game, and I know why they're included. They're included because, like I said, we're not restricted by historical dates, and there are a huge percentage of people who would love the undead, especially because the models are fantastic. They really, really are. I wish that, you know, I could put them in a different game, but I don't play any games where I use undead in that particular era. There was a game that one of my friends was making, which was all about Rasputin and necromancy and stuff, that I think I could really use them for that. But yeah, when I play games like this, I like the historical aspect of it. So I think any campaigns I'll be running, nobody will be using undead. So sorry, guys, who would be playing this with me. If you ordered them dead, you won't be using them in my campaign. But that's my own personal preference and little idiosyncrasy. For those who do like it and aren't wanting to be tied into the historical aspect of it, boom, undead are for you. I'm going to get that way because it's a very, very small thing. But my only issue with this book in general, which, as you know, I've said repeatedly is fantastic, is the pictures of the actual gameplay stuff. So the board and the buildings and things like that. And it's purely the board itself. I love the buildings. I love all the little scatter terrain. I love the models. They're painted beautifully. I don't like this board. I don't know whether it is or whether it's just because of the way the light catches it, but instead of it looking like a sand, it looks like it's white polyfiller that's just been spread. And you can't see it very good here, but you can see it on their Facebook or their website if you did want to see. But when it's a small company that are making their second ever rulebook, if the only real complaint I have about the rulebook is that the stock photos of the actual gameplay, the board that they use, doesn't look as good as the rest of it, I think that's a pretty indicative of how awesome this book is, because that's a really petty thing to find not very good about it. But you'll see as we look through some of the other examples of it. But yes, I would have preferred it to be like a sandy colour or something like that, but that's just, again, it's me, it's my own preference. Again, some more beautiful artwork, this time showing some horse, or showing a horse, not some horse, like there's a leg and a tail. It shows someone riding a horse, so he's probably either an outlaw or cavalry. He doesn't look like he's specifically cavalry, as in Bosch, right here, the 7th Cavalry. He looks more like an outlaw, and I base that purely on that awesome mustache. That's an outlaw mustache. You don't get to be a lawman with a mustache that cool. Unless you are a lawman currently who has a mustache like that, and then I apologise for offending you, obviously. Yeah, so as you'll notice as you're watching through this, although I'm really excited about this book and I do really love it, I also cannot help myself from just rabbiting on and waffling and telling you things that are not really part of this. Yeah, so we're going to look at the introduction now. So with this, again, it doesn't really talk about the game mechanics or anything like that, so I'm not going to read it all word for word. It just says, obviously, welcome to Tombstone, a tabletop miniature game that allows you to lead a posse of outlaws, Mexicans, natives, lawmen, 7th Cavalry, or perhaps the more sinister undead, which is all stuff we've already covered. Then it says you assemble a posse or gang of fighters, mount raids, ambushes, gunfights, brawls, and much more. So that's the good thing about this. There's some really good scenarios in this book, but it does obviously encourage you to try and make up your own and things like that as well. So you're only limited, like it said previously, by your imagination with regards to this. But there's a lot you can do, and the rule set is very flexible for that. It feels very much like an RPG that you use models for. And we are going to do specific playthroughs and show off the game mechanics, so we're not going to delve too deeply or too greedily into this rulebook's rules today. We're going to be looking at just, this is a general overview, and we are going to cover it in greater detail, mainly because I don't really know whether Black Scorpion are happy for me to basically show you the whole book and read it out to you. I think anybody who watches this probably got an inkling that they want to get the game anyway, or are interested in seeing what the game is. And I can't imagine that me telling you about it from here is going to be enough. You're going to want to get your own copy of the rules to play it. So I think it'll probably be okay. So it just says the rulebook contains several distinct chapters, each of which details a particular part of the game. So like I was saying before, it's set up really, really well. And we're going to have a look straight into that. Because as I said, introduction doesn't... Me reading it out to you isn't really going to do anything. Again, these are these stock photos that really bother me. Because I'm pedantic. So it says, in order to play Tombstone, you'll need a tabletop and some scenery. We suggest a table size of approximately 40 inches by 40 inches, or 120 centimetres by 120 centimetres. So that's a 4 foot by 4 foot table for the layman. And you can buy, there's loads of special mats out there. You can just use, like I do, a wooden board that's sanded and painted. You can use whatever avails you. If you don't have one, you could play on a floor and just mark out the area. It's whatever's going to be convenient for yourself. There are a number of really good websites out there that do MDF style Western scenery. And depending on whether you want to be able to go inside the buildings and stuff as well, there's a couple of companies who do really good cardboard pop-up scenery. It's like a plastic card type stuff. It's really, really good quality. TTCombat's a big favourite of ours, or Foreground. But there are others out there, so just Google 28mm Western scenery and you'll find something that's sort of for you. But yeah, scenery is important in this because you need stuff to hide behind for shooting purposes and things like that. So what you'll also need is a tape measure and all the other usual stuff that you would need for gaming. One of the most important aspects of this is the dice, the type of dice you would use. So you need a D4, a D6, a D8, a D10, a D12, and a D20, D being dice, for those who are new to wargaming. Because I have been told before, I'll say a D6, and someone said, what's a D6? It's a dice. So it's a 6-sided dice, or a 4-sided dice, 8-sided, etc. So yes, you will need them, and when we look through the book, you'll see why. Again, you can pick those up from your local stores. I know I get a lot of dice like that from Travelling Man in Newcastle. If you live in the northeast area, Travelling Man's fantastic. Definitely check it out. But if not, you can get these kind of dice online. I know Amazon do like big dice packs where you'll get like 5 or 10 of each of them. You can also pick them up from Black Scorpion Miniatures themselves. They do special dice packs. As much as I like Black Scorpion, I feel that they're really reasonably priced. I don't particularly think the dice are reasonably priced for the amount you get. But again, that's a personal thing on me. There are those who'd be quite happy to pay that. I'd rather pick up some cheap dice on Amazon so that I can spend more on beautiful cowboy models. And trust me, I have at least one of each of the current range of Tombstone models. And obviously I've got some of the Kickstart ones, and when new models come out, I will definitely be purchasing them because I really, really love the quality of their models. So for me, as I said, I'd rather pick up some cheap dice on Amazon or in my local comic book or nerding shop and then spend more on my models. But to each their own. Gives you a little overview. It's between 25 to 35 millimeter scale. So if, like me, you own a lot of cowboys from different gaming systems, Dead Man's Hand, as I said, I've got some Perry miniature models. I've got some from a really old company called Outback Miniatures, I think it was, and they're slightly smaller. They all fit within that broad spectrum of between 25 to 35 millimeter scale, because much like I'm a dwarf and Alan's almost elf-like in his height, we're different sizes. Again, my dad different size to me, etc., etc. You know how people work. Everybody has different sizes, so it works quite well if you've got models of varying sizes, as long as they're not too different. Like, you don't want like a Space Marine and an Epic Space Marine next to each other. That would look silly, unless you pretend one's Ant-Man and the other's also Ant-Man. Then it's fine. So yeah, it is really important that you have the models to play with, and it gives you a lot of stuff in here about it. So having a look through, shows you the dice again, it tells you about measuring and stuff like that. And as I said, or you may have noticed when I was telling you about the board, it gives it in centimeters and it gave it in inches as well. And this game does that with all measurements. This one thing that's quite important in this game is that players are free to measure distances at any time. All distances between models are measured from base to base. So it is a pre-measuring game. More games seem to be going that way, and it's really, really good. And I think a lot of that's to do with modular gaming boards. I could be wrong, but I know Games Workshop, when they released their modular gaming board, and then they released their last ever edition of Fantasy, God bless your soul, they got away with guess measuring and things like that. Everything was pre-measuring was allowed, and that was because you can work out quite easily if you've got 1 foot by 1 foot squares or 2 foot by 2 foot squares. You can work out the distance of things quite simply. So this is another pre-measuring game, which is cool. And this works in a way that you have an active and inactive team, and we are going to get to that in the actions bit. So dice modifiers, again, this is something that's really, really important. So we're going to cover that now. So yeah, there's two different ways dice modifiers work. Often a model's chances of succeeding in their action will be improved or reduced by the quality of their weapon, their physical state, and other factors. There are two types of modifiers used, and which one applies to a role are detailed in the relevant rules sections. So the first type of modifier is a level increase or decrease, and this comes into the dice that I was saying. So this modifier changes the type of die rolled. So, for example, a +1 level changes a d6 to a d8, and a -2 level would reduce a d8 to a d4. A level cannot be reduced less than a d4 or more than a d20. So you can see, so if you normally roll a d6 when shooting, but you've got a +1 level, it would go up to a d8. And then the second type of modifier is more standard, and this is the kind you'll notice in most games, which is just a bonus die. This allows the player to roll one or more additional die and choose the one with the highest result. For example, a model may have a dam of d6, which is damage, and it's something we will come to later, and be granted a bonus damage die. This allows the model to roll 2d6 and choose the highest final score. Bonus dice are accumulative, so if you have several factors that add +1 die, you roll that many die, but you still only pick the highest. So if you roll 10d6 for damage, for instance, you are only then picking the highest of those d6. They're not being added together. They're not any over a certain number. It's just always the one, unless your gun says otherwise or your rule says otherwise. So yeah, that's everything on dice modifiers. Again, I don't want to cover the rules in huge amounts of detail, because then when I do a how to play, I'll have already covered a lot of it, and it won't be fun for you guys. Unless you're like me, I learn by repetition. So I'll read a rule book and it vaguely goes in my head, and then I'll play it multiple times and it will stay in my head. Alternatively, I can just keep reading or listening to the same bit over and over again, and it will stay in my head that way. So repetition works for me. If repetition works for you, then cool. The bits that I put in here will also be in the how to play. But yes, profile and attributes next. So as you can see here, there's a little chart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 main ones. And these are RE, reactions, ACC, accuracy, combat, dex, dexterity, Con, constitution, dam for damage. So I'm going to read you what each of these are. These are obviously your main stats for the game, and they are very, very important. So reaction. This measures the fighter's speed of thought and action. Higher reactions allow a model to respond quickly to events. Accuracy. This value represents the warrior's ability with ranged weapons. A higher accuracy improves the chance of the model hitting when shooting. So you're rolling a d10, you're more likely to hit than you are if you're rolling a d4. Stands to reason. Com is combat, measure of a model's skills in hand-to-hand, the old fisticuffs. A model with a higher combat value is more likely to land a successful blow. Fair point. Dexterity, the model's ability to move and negotiate difficult terrain and obstacles is measured by dexterity. So climbing and such, jumping on barrels, jumping from a building onto a horse. Good stuff. Constitution. Not to do with your stomach. So the constitution attribute rates the warrior's ability to withstand injury and continue fighting. So it is important. Damage, the amount of harm the model can do when he strikes in hand-to-hand combat, depends on the damage value. This measures not only raw strength, but also the fighter's canniness in where he lands his blows. So punching in the junk mainly. And then in addition to these attributes, each side's leader has an authority or AU value that embodies the leader's determination, technical acumen, and the loyalty of those serving under them. And then, as I said before, they're rated between a D4 to a D20, mentioning the dice damage before. So here's an example of a profile. And this is a sheriff. He costs $78. He's level 8 with 41 experience points, which is something, again, we'll cover in the campaign side of things. You'll see there, RE is D6, ACC or accuracy is D8, D6, you can see there on. And then there's special underneath, because he's a leader, you'll see there AU, which is his authority, is a D8. He's got leader, tough as nails, and ranger, which are skills, and then any equipment that you have would be listed there. Now the book's really good, and it does give you a gang sheet that you're allowed to print off. You can also find free ones of those. I think they're on their website. If not, the Facebook group that I told you we'd set up, we have a copy in there, in the file section that you're allowed to print out and use. They're also in the rulebook for you to use for that. So this is facing and line of sight. So line of sight and facing are important in this miniature game. Each model has a front-facing line of sight, and you can see in an 180-degree arc to the front. For models posed facing front, for models facing front on, this can easily be determined by drawing a line through the feet as the front 180 arc. For models posed sideways, pointing a gun or similar, the gun can be used as the fundamental point from which you draw 180 degrees. Generally, this won't be an issue in gameplay, as more often than not, it's obvious if someone is in the front arc or behind a model. Now, with this, there's two different ways you can do it. The way we'll be doing it when we play in our campaigns, and hopefully all my friends agree with this because we're all not horrible people, is benefit of the doubt and obviousness. It'll be different in tournaments, and you'll probably get people arguing and stuff, and in that case it's probably best just to paint a line on your base to show your 180 degree arc. But gentlemanly agreements about, yeah, that's obviously facing that way, could probably be discussed amongst you. It's only really in a tournament setting where I think it might be different. In that case, maybe paint some lines on your base or something like that to show an 180 degree arc. And then line of sight, which is another big thing. So the model scenery we use on the tabletop is treated as being a true representation of the terrain models are fighting across. In order for one model to see another, you must be able to draw a line between the two. In most cases, this will be obvious, but sometimes you might have to get down near the table and have a model's eye view. As our miniature fighters are static, unable to crouch, bend, or peer around corners like normal folk, we give a little leeway to present this. In order to draw a line of sight to a model, you must be able to see some clearly identifiable part of it. Players should exercise their common sense when judging this. Seeing a hand or a tip of a hat over a crate should not count as being visible, but if you can see an arm and a bit of a shoe, it's clear that someone is there that you could possibly be hit. So yeah, again, it's a common sense situation, and if you play a lot of skirmish games like we do, and my friendship group's pretty good for this, there tends never to be arguments about line of sight and cover. Occasionally, Alan and I will bicker, but that's mainly just on videos, and that's mainly just for entertainment value for you guys who seem to like us fighting. Most of the time, you can just do a gentleman's agreement on it. But yeah. So there's rules with regards to models turning on the spot. A model may turn on the spot for free in the following circumstances. At the start and end of that model making a movement action, before that model makes a shooting action, at the start of any combat he's involved in, even if the other gang is active. So for an attacker to be able to gain the benefits of attacking from behind, you need to attack with more than one model. And like it says there, it is explained later. So so facing's important, and then says, other than the given examples, a model must stay in the direction it's facing. Some encounters also specify special rules regarding turning on the spot. So, again, the different scenarios or special rules might change some different things, but for the basics, it's those 3 examples I just listed there. Right. So it says, sequence of play. Shootouts and hold-ups can become a chaotic affair, with victory often going to the quickest witted. In order to bring some kind of structure and anarchy of combat, we use the authority of the leaders and reaction test to determine the sequence in which they perform their actions. So you have an active phase and an action total. So play follows a succession of phases during which the players can move and fight with their models. During each phase, one player has the active gang and the other has the inactive gang. So that's just what I was saying before. At the start of the game, after the models have been set up, as explained in that specific encounter, the 2 leaders make an AU roll. The leader that scores the highest becomes active. Re-roll any ties, and both players then use that same high score as their action total. And you can keep track of this using the action points tracker in the back of the book. So again, they give you a copy you can print out in the book, or you can find it online. We have it on the Facebook thing. We're actually going to be using poker chips, though, because we're going to keep that Western theme going. So the example it gives is both players' leaders have an authority of 8. So they roll a d8 for each. One rolls an 8, the other rolls a 2. So the player who rolled an 8 is the active player first, and he takes his turn first. But both players will start with 8 actions for that turn, or for that game. The active gang can perform a number of actions equal to its action total as described in the next section, and this involves moving models, shooting, fighting in hand-to-hand combat, and so on. We have sometimes referred to this as the action phase. So yes, and again, it's something we'll come into, and it's something we're going to cover in a lot more detail when we're actually playing the game. So we're not going to cover this here, really. We can see how it's all set out. You get a lot of these little boxes, which is really, really cool, and they're just like things you definitely need to know. So, like in this case, it's the circumstances in which a gang would react or change the active gang. So enemy approaches within 6 inches, enemy shoots and misses, friendly model is taken out within 6, special circumstances, and that'll make more sense, as I said, when we do either our how to play or when you buy the book yourself and you read it, because you should buy it because it's awesome. And again, there's more with regards to the rules. I could read this word for word, and you could watch it, and some people might be interested, some people might find it a really boring video. I'm not going to, because it's not my book. I didn't design it. It was designed by Black Scorpion Miniatures, and they're a company, and they need to sell copies of this book. If I read it out word for word, yes, some people will buy it, but there's others who won't do, because they've just heard a lot of the fluff stuff, and once you've played the game a few times, you get the gist of how you play it in your head. So there will be bits I skip, plus also I'm not sure on the copywriting purposes of this. I know you can get copyright strikes for reading certain rule books and stuff out. I think it's only really Games Workshop who would enforce that, but I'm not going to risk it, and certainly, as I said, I want people to buy it, so I'm going to cover it in vague bits. Some bits I'm going to skip largely, because really it's just an overview of the book itself. But these are the tokens in questions. Injured, stunned, out of ammo, taken out, lasso, Fowler's Whiskey and ready. And there's sheets in the back that you can print out. That are pretty cool for that. And then you get these little things dotted throughout, and they're really, really cool. And the little signs that you can print out, you have to rescale some of them, but you can stick them around your scenery and things like that. I really, really like them anyway. Again, more beautiful artwork. Now I really like this particular piece of artwork. It's a very pencil shading style that I really, really like. I like this guy's beard. He's pretty cool. So yeah, here's the action section. So as it says here, this chapter details the actions models can perform. As the gang leader barks out orders, his followers will act accordingly. In this way, several models can act at the same time but must perform similar types of actions. So I will cover a little bit on this. As I said, I'm not going to cover it in full. So it says the sequence the active player uses as follows. So declare a move or shoot an action, nominate the first model to perform said action, resolve action and possible reactions, and then repeat 2 and 3 until all desired actions have been declared. And then the maximum is your current action total. So if you have 8 models and you've got 8 actions, each person can do a move or a shoot. If you've got 8 models but 4 actions, 4 of them can do that. And then the enemy gang becomes active. An enemy gang becomes active through a reaction. So I'm going to read that whole sentence again because I did interrupt to do like a little bit of an explanation in the middle of it, which was okay. It worked. I'll just cover the sentence again. So you repeat sequence 2 and 3 until all desired actions have been declared and types have been performed. Maximum is your current action total. Or the enemy gang becomes active through a reaction, which is in that section that we completely skipped out, but we will cover in the how to play. And then you reduce the action totals on the AP tracker by 1. So you'd move it on the tracker if you've printed it out, or if you're using poker chips, you just get rid of 1 poker chip. If you're using dice, you'd put your dice down exactly the same. And then you declare your action types. So the different action types can be performed by models are defined as movement, shooting, and a catch-all category we call special actions. That represents other actions such as reloading guns, hand-to-hand combat, out-of-the-ordinary events, or using strange weapons and abilities. Special actions can be done instead of movement or shooting for specific models as explained below. We're not going to cover that now, but it will be covered when we do our how to play. So then you've got the movement section, as you can see there. You can move up to 5 inches or 12.5 centimetres. So you covered no matter what. It's got terrain, obstacles, how to get over them. It's got a falling damage chart, again set out very, very neatly. You can see everything's really well set out when my hands aren't waving by. Something on this side, something on that, something on here, a little bit of artwork because nothing necessary. Instead of just cramming, because you could have crammed all of this onto this side. It would have made the page feel very claustrophobic and annoying to read, but set out really, really well. Again, some more of these little cool things. It just adds a bit of flavour to it, so it shows you impassable terrain, buildings, sprinting. There's lots of different things in here, moving and hand-to-hand combat, breaking from combat, so you'll see another one of these charts. You get a lot of these type of charts, and everything, again, as I said, is really well set out and really easy to follow. Mounted movement, how that works, mounting and mounting another model's horse, because you can steal each other's horses, as is here, stealing horses, reacting to movement, unattended mounts, which is obviously the kind you'd steal, shooting, it gives you a little chart again here, shooting from the hip, shooting 2 pistols while hip shooting at multiple targets, then look at that. I love me a hit chart. I don't know, maybe it's because I played Games Workshop games for so long, but I really, really love a chart where you just go, so my accuracy is 6, my accuracy is 6, yep, your reaction is 3. So you just go accuracy along there, reaction along there, 3, 6, it's a miss. Etc. Except it's not, because that's action. But yeah, you need damage chart. I like damage charts. Always have. And there's lots of charts in here. It will be cool. I don't know if there's one actually at the back. I can't remember. But if not, it'd be cool to get like a quick guide sheet that had all these charts on one page to save you flicking through a book or flicking through your PDFs. But as you can see here, you have miss, hit, critical, injured, and out. And it tells you what they are. So miss is target. Miss. Target may choose to react if all shots miss. So you shoot someone and they get to react if you miss. Hit. Roll for damage as normal using the weapons damage. Critical. +1 damage bonus die. So there you'd roll 2 die as we discussed earlier and you'd pick the highest. Injured. Target is injured without a damage roll, so that's just a straight headshot pretty much. And then out. Taken out. The target is taken out without any damage roll. So you just take them straight off the board. And there's the modifiers. Again, they're all very well set out. Target modifiers to reaction roll when being shot at. A range chart, so it tells you that like a D4 has point blank range of 4 inches, long range is 12 inches, and so on. So a D12, for instance, is a 12 inch and 28 inch. You see, I said, I don't want to be reading out the rules, as I've said multiple times. I'm just showing you the book itself. Hand-to-hand combat, again, charts. Love me some charts. 1 to 4 a hit, 5 plus a critical hit, +1 damage bonus. And as I said, I will cover this specifically in another video in a lot of detail because I want people to be able to play this. There's no videos yet up on how to play it except like a quick look guide that they did during the Kickstarter, and that again, if you're in our Facebook group for this game, it's the pinned post, so you can have a look up until we do a how-to, and then we'll pop that on there. So yeah, my tablet's just turned off for a moment, just to put itself on standby. So we're going to move on to the next section. So I'm back. It turned out it wasn't just on standby. If you spend about 4 hours making a video, make sure to plug something on charge. So the battery died. I'm back anyway, without too much interruption to you guys. But for me, it was quite a trying day. Don't feel bad for me though. I have this rulebook, so all is well. So this is the damage and injuries chart. Again, as I said, there's loads of charts in this book. It would be cool to see them all on one page. So you can see here that they have NE, no effect, the target is unharmed. Stun, meaning the target is stunned. Inj, meaning the target is injured. And then taken out, or out, sorry, meaning the target is taken out. And again, it's something we'll cover in a lot more detail. We'll cover how all these things work. Then you've got what each of them are, a couple more pictures. As you can see there, it's not just my camera, bland ground. I know it's such a little thing, and it really doesn't affect the game at all, which is fantastic. We've played a couple of trial games. It does play really, really well. It's such a stupid thing that I get so like worked up about. But again, like I said, if that's the worst thing in this rulebook, then I can certainly live with it. Shows you what happens with multiple injuries. There's a chart at the bottom again. Reactions to models taken out, horses and damage. Special actions, reloading, stand ready, skills and weapons, weapon representation. And then we get some more really, really nice artwork. This is obviously a much more rough sketch. So yeah, we're not going to dwell on the artwork too long. I just particularly like that piece. Here's the list of the skills, and as you can see, there are 30 of them. Legend, Deadeye, Deadly, and listed, numbered, what they are, and how they go. So we'll just pick one at random, which is Cowboy. Seems fitting. The lasso is second nature to the Cowboy. This skill gives them +1 bonus die when using the lasso and extends the range up to 12 inches. Quick Draw is another one. No minus level penalty for shooting from the hip. And we'll pick one more. Bolt, for instance. Gives +1 movement allowance and +1 bonus damage die to dexterity rolls for sprinting. So you can see it's very, very simply laid out. You can see what the skill is and then how it works. Then we go across to the weapons chart. Weapon equipment summary, shooting weapons. 6-shooter does damage of D6 and it's got a rate of fire 3. We'll go down to hand-to-hand, which is a knife. Models with a knife gains +1 constitution. Bonus die. Oh no, sorry, +1 combat die. Cannot be used as a throwing knife. So you can see the different weapons there and how they work. The points values for them are in the campaign section, so you're not having to flick back to the weapons to work to do your points and things like that, which is quite good. Dynamite, which works very differently, has an explanation of that. Your lasso, which we've mentioned a couple of times, and then again another beautiful piece of artwork. on there. And again, we're now starting to get to similar styles. I'm assuming they're done by similar artists, maybe the same artist. But it's beautiful. As I said near the start, the artwork in this book is all really fantastic. Now what we've come to is the encounters, and you can see there that you randomly roll a d8 to pick those, and there's ambush, pitch battle, stagecoach, bank robbery, shootout, kidnap and arrest, loot and showdown. And what we're going to do is we're going to take some of the missions from Legends of the Old West, which was an old Games Workshop game, and we've got all the expansions for that. We're going to take some of those missions as well, and we're going to adapt them so they fit in with this. And when we do, we'll probably do it so it goes up to 12, and then we'll replace the D8 with a D12, etc., etc. So we will make sure to cover how those different scenarios work, and we'll probably put a link to them in the Facebook page so you can download them and try them yourselves if you want. But it says here, a game of Tombstone is called an encounter. The encounter we represent here are just some of the many ways you can field your gangs. And then it says, doubtless players will devise their own and share them with the game community, which is exactly what we were just talking about. And it says you can use all your gang or some of them. And then it says, we envision encounters taking place on a 4x4 board, which is what we mentioned earlier. And then it says you roll a d8 to decide which one. If you add more, then obviously you just change the type of D that you use, being D10, D12, etc. And then it shows you, I'm going to show you the anatomy of an encounter, which is each encounter contains the following information: sides, location, objectives, special rules, and campaign aftermath, and then how to win. So sides is the section details where the encounter requires an attacker and a defender, and any restrictions applied to the gangs taking part. Location, a brief description of the terrain that should be used on the tabletop. Here you'll find how to set up the models before the encounter, so that will have deployment as well. Objectives, what both gangs are trying to achieve and how to determine the winner. Special rules, the particular circumstances of the encounter are reflected in the special rules applied during the game, such as claiming objectives, one side being surprise reinforcements, and so on and so forth. Then the campaign aftermath, the consequences of winning and losing the encounter when playing a campaign. And it explains about captured models, experience stuff, and then winning the game. Each encounter has specific objectives to win the game, and then gives you a load more information, which again, I'm not going to dwell too much on. I want you guys to read it. Again, more of this cool little poster-style artwork. Then it's got the different stuff themselves, stagecoach, move through, some nice little artwork going forward. And we will, the way we're going to do it is we're going to do a how to play, and then we're going to do a video for each of the missions. So you'll get 8 video, basically how to play videos. In total you'll get 9. One's a basic how to play, and then it's one for each scenario, whereas we're playing we'll be explaining what we're doing. And then after we've done those 9 videos, we'll most likely be starting a campaign with a group of sort of 4 to 6 of us. And we'll film each of those, much like we did to the Legends of the Old West, which you can find. We will pop a link in the description below. So there's loads. We'll get past all these. Again, some beautiful art, beautiful artwork. And then we come to the comic book. So in this, you get a free comic book in the middle of the book. It's really, really cool. I'm only going to show you a couple of pages of it, because again, I want you guys to buy the rulebook and read it yourselves. So we'll look at the cover. Heroic Tales of Adventure for Boys. I'm sure that would be found problematic by some, but not by me. And that's the kind of art style it is, so it's really, really good. It's got that gritty Western feel. As you can see, certainly on this page anyway, not a lot of dialogue. It's going to be a very visual medium. So you've got a female sheriff riding into town, a little kid who's all like, hey, look, there's a female sheriff riding into town. That's pretty cool. Then guy runs in, etc. Little bits going on. So we'll just skip past the comic. It's fantastic, and I might do a separate video on the comic because it's really, really cool. And I really, really hope that they would do it as like an ongoing thing. Much like if you follow Weird Miniatures, they used to do, or they might still do, I'm not as big into Malifaux as I used to be. You used to get their tales where they would sort of carry on the story. I cannot it wasn't called Tales from Malifaux, or Tales Through the Breach, no. But it was something. It was like a monthly or bi-monthly or every now and then when they put it up magazine, and it would announce new models and stuff that were coming out, and it would also progress the story. I'd really love to see Black Scorpion as they sort of progress through this game. I would love to see them do that as a comic book, whether it was something you had to buy, or whether it was something they put up as a free sort of tantalising thing to lure you in. I don't care which. I would just want it, and I would gladly pay for it if that was a thing. I like the artwork style, and I don't think there's enough comics on the Old West. Yeah, as a comic book fan, I would like that. So it shows you a few of the models anyway, to get back to this rulebook. Mexican leader, then you've got the undead leader, female deputy, outlaw leader, Custer. So you've got actual characters. That's one thing about this is really cool, is you have like actual characters like Wyatt the Earps and Doc Holliday, Billy the Kid, Custer, as is the case, and there's rules represented for them. But anyway, we'll get to that when we get to that. So you get the sheriff and he's mounted, and then it shows you some of the different gangs: 7th Cavalry, the Earps, as I was saying, the Lawmen, and the Mexicans. I fully intend to buy all the new stuff that Black Scorpion do to fill out my ranks, but those Mexicans are so good. I chose the females because I play a female outlaw gang, especially when we were doing the old Legends of the Old West, and I intend to with this. But after seeing the Mexican models, I really wish I'd have gone Mexicans, so I can't wait till they get up on the website. Not that the Mexicans they've already got there aren't very good, they're beautiful, but it's a limited range, much like the Native Americans and things like that. So this expands the range quite dramatically. But yeah, so you get the pictures, and they're the same kind of ones that are on the website. So you've got like the bluey white background, and then you've got the models themselves. It's really, really cool. Then you get this, which is obviously a bit more fluff stuff, and it's set out in a very cool westerny way. And then we come to campaigns. So campaigns is a big part of this game. So we're only briefly going to flip through this because, as I said, I want to split this off. Campaigns I might actually do as a full separate video, separate from the how to play. So as I said, there'll be one how to play, and then there'll be one of each of the scenarios. So that's 9. But I think I'm also going to do sections following this video, which is looking at campaigns. So it's a whole section itself. So it'll be how to create a gang as one video. How that works out, that's what a gang roster looks like. And then for a separate video, it'll be, so this is, I'll digress and spill off, but this is what like the lawmen looks like. So you have to have one sheriff, you can have between 0 to 4 deputies, you have to have 1+ lawmen, and then you don't have to have any town watch, but you can. So as we were looking at before, it tells you what it is, the stats as such, specials, equipment, what they can take. So a sheriff can take anything, deputies can take any common and 1 uncommon, equipment, any common, and then up to 2 commons, and then the cost, the level, etc. So yeah, and then you're creating a gang, it tells you all your different information. We'll have a quick look. So there's the lawman's skill table. And then you've got outlaws, similar ilk, 1 posse leader, 0 to 4 outlaws, 1+ cowboys, and then no wanted men, as a have to, but you can take any you want. That's their skills. Mexicans again, 7th Cavalry, natives, undead. Again, it's not something I'm going to touch on, but I definitely think I want one of each of the others. And then equipment costs. So here, single model may carry no more than 3 pistols in total. You can only carry a maximum of 1 big iron pistol, and a concealed pistol doesn't count towards that total of 3. No more than 1 weapon that requires both hands to fire. So you can carry a shotgun, big iron, and 2 6-shooters, for example. There's no limit on the total amount of hand-to-hand weapons or equipment in addition to this, but you can only ever select 1 at any given time. So I really do like the idea that somebody's just going to have about 50 knives, just paid for them because they've got so much loot, but they never really use any. So equipment costs, that's your basic equipment, then uncommon equipment, which is what we were talking about before. Special characters, hiring special characters. So originally my dad was going to do just the Wyatt Earps, It now looks like it's not possible. They can be recruited post-game, but you can't choose special characters in your starting gang. So we'll look at who these special characters are. There's Custer, Gordito and Pablo the Donkey, Butch, Annie Oakley, Billy the Kid, Pat Garrett, the Wyatt Earps, and they can be for lawmen or some kind. Oh yeah, so that's the thing here. It tells you who they can be with. So Pat Garrett can be outlaws or lawmen. Billy the Kid can be outlaws or Mexicans. The Wyatts can be lawmen or 7th Cavalry. Doc Holliday is listed there. Virgil Earp, Morgan Earp. So yeah, so your Earps. Boom. Crazy Horse. Ghost of Jesse James if you're in the Undeads. Johnny Ringo. Curly Billy. Curly Bill Brocchius, I believe. I'm not familiar with him. The others I'm aware of. Most of the models are already out, so like the Earps and show you there. I'm sure that there is a Pat Garrett because I've got him, and I've got Billy the Kid because he was one of the free ones. As you can see, they're both there. And I'm not sure about the others. If they're not on the site, I'm sure they're coming shortly because they're usually really good with stuff like that. Then it gives you some summary rules on how to use a horse and movement and things like that. The different things like lasso and stuff. Then the campaign sequence. So as I was saying before I so rudely interrupted myself, I'm probably going to do a series of videos on the campaign, one of which will be how to make a gang. And with that, we'll probably sit down and you'll see the guys who are in our campaign are probably going to... That's when we'll draw up our campaign... draw up our gangs so you can see kind of how our thought processes go into it, and then you can decide whether that's for you or you can sort of adapt as you wish. We'll then do the campaign sequence as a second one, and this is how it goes. So you determine your encounter and you'd play it, then you do the aftermath, resolve injuries, gain experience, work out funds, recruit, and then find your next opponent. And I think we'll probably do those as separate videos as well. Depend on the length of said videos. So as you can see, as we're flicking through, it's got obviously all that information there. Your challenge, determine encounter, aftermath, injuries, dead, and it's got a campaign injury chart, and it's a very, very simple one. On a roll of a 1, dead. On a roll of a 2 or 3, seriously wounded. 4+, absolutely fine. So it says here, I'll read this because it's important. Any model that is taken out during an encounter may suffer a permanent injury. During the during this phase of the campaign, models that were taken out must take a con check. Models that were crippled roll 2 dice for the con and pick the lowest result, representing the serious nature of the injury. Look at the result on the campaign injury chart, which is this here. And then the con roll is based off your standard con stat, and the model minuses incurred in the game for injuries, etc. don't count post-game. And then you can be dead, as I said, on a 1. And then there's the serious injury chart. So it's a D20, and you'd pick one as appropriate. Not as appropriate, like you're like, I think I'll choose 7, broken shoulder. No, you roll the D20, and then whichever one it lands on. But you can see from 1, punch drunk, a model loses 1 fight or combat, to 20, freak accident, the model gains 1 con. Which is his constitution. He never felt better since the incident. So you see, you know, it is varying. And then there's some results, obviously, that are marked with asterisks, which you can't get multiple times, etc. And you've got absent leaders. So if for any reason a leader is unable to take part in the next encounter, the model with the next highest worth is given temporary control. So they step into place. It tells you how to gain experience. Kind of thing. Use a chart below to get a level up per game, and then you've got all your little charts. Like I said, loads of charts. Then there's this. There's the list of skills. How to work out funds, income, that kind of thing. New recruits, buying weapons and equipment, leadership challenges. So leadership challenges is pretty cool. If a model ever gets a greater worth than his leader, a leadership challenge ensues. I cannot talk since my battery died. If a leader is captured, then the model with the next highest worth becomes the leader. So that's pretty cool. It's like a nice little dynamic to it. And then ending in the campaign, the final reckoning. So this is, if you've ever played one of these type of games, you tend to get so far in a campaign and then it peters out as people get bored or they, one gang gets too good. So It says, though not essential, you may wish to have an end to your campaign. It may be part of a story the various gangs are playing out that has an ultimate goal, or you may just be playing a game by game and you want to have an ultimate winner by way of a final game. Either way, there's a number of ways to do it. And then it covers these in there. And it's not something, as I said, we're going to go into in this, because I want to cover it as a separate video, not just to get extra videos up for you guys, but because I do realise this is a long video as it is, because I really, really love this book, and there's a lot in it to see. So the special campaign encounters is, as you can see anyway, the main point is that everything's laid out really, really well. There's more of those white. It's fine, it's fine. You can see different types of special encounters, some more beautiful artwork, in-game quick reference. So this is what I was asking about, really, before. It's there. I would like, as I said, to see one that was print-outable one that you could download on the website, basically. So it's in-game quick reference, your charts. Oh, so it's quite a few pages, actually. You'd probably need to print off a load of them. Weapons, these kind of things. So these are just carbon copies of the ones earlier in the book. And then a post-game quick reference, campaign injury chart, all this on one or two pages. So this is all really, really cool. List of the skills, and then here's the resources. So tokens, you can cut out this page, photocopy it, or download digital copy from www.blackscorpionminiatures.com. These tokens are intended to be cut out in pairs. Cut them horizontally, and then fold each pair over so you have a front and a back. That's pretty cool. And then there's more there. Then there's these, your action tokens, a blast template. I really, really hope as well, either they do it themselves or they speak to, like Red Beam Designs, Counterattack Bases, someone like that, about producing some for them. But I would really love to see acrylics of a lot of this. Then here's a gang roster sheet to print out that's not filled in, because obviously the other one was an example before. And this is really cool because it's like a two-part thing, so I would hopefully be able to get one printed double-sided. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down here, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then there's a stash and treasury and posse worth thing at the bottom. Yeah, so it might be worth printing off like 2 of these and then one of that last one, because you're never going to need 2 pages of stash and treasury. But these are the action trackers that I was talking about. So as you can see here, maybe this is where we got the idea for poker chips. It definitely was. You can print this off, and it's a 1 to 12. You just put your dice or your marker or whatever you're using on these, and you just move them down as appropriate. And then we've got some cool little signs you can put up. And then a blank page, because why not? I can't remember if the rulebook has that. It won't do. It's a PDF thing, I think. Then there's another map. And then there's the back cover, which again, that white. But no, so that's a look at the rules. As I said, I've said a lot about how much I love this rulebook, as you've noticed. And I genuinely, I think it's really, really astoundingly put together for a second ever rulebook. Cutlass rulebook was good, and I do have that. I don't have a PDF copy of it, though, so if they want to put one of those up on their website, I would gladly buy one, because I like having PDFs. Because it just keeps everything in one place. But that being said, I think Tombstone is a massive step up. I'm looking forward to do more videos on it for you guys. I'm definitely looking forward to getting some paint on the models that came with the Kickstarter. And I'm looking forward to them putting more models up for me to purchase and paint. Yeah, so as always, guys, thank you very much for your time today. Hopefully you'll check out Tombstone and the links that I've suggested below. And as always, break the dice gods, hope they smile upon you, and take care.